Hey everybody, Paul Mack here. I've got another viewer question, this one from Patrick Cleburne, and Patrick asks, I'd love to hear your thoughts or those of anyone else reading this on sizing an area like this and its potential purposes as I'm considering what to build myself. Now, what Patrick is talking about, he's referring to my chicken yard fencing and protecting chickens video, which I recommend you go watch. Maybe not right now, but right after this. Anyway, he says, I'm guessing it wouldn't take very many chickens to scratch the area within a 100-foot perimeter to bare dirt in relatively short time, at which point I wonder what purposes it serves. If the run is just going to be bare dirt anyway, I'm thinking I might rather have my chickens under a solid roof, but with a section with 2x4 or similar wire fencing on the sides for fresh air and sun, so the manure doesn't get washed away by rain and I can gather more and put it to good use. But maybe there are other advantages to a bare dirt run I'm not considering. Well, Patrick, yes, it does not take long for any amount of chickens to turn practically any amount of a grassy area into bare dirt in a short amount of time, and inside a chicken yard, a chicken run, whatever you want to call it. And the main advantage or the main purpose of a chicken yard is to give the chickens access to a larger area rather than being confined to just their house all day and all night for protection. The chicken yard with the fencing is designed to give them more space to run in and protection from daytime predators. The chicken house that you supposedly shut them up in at night, that protects them from nighttime predators. The chicken yard or the chicken run protects them from daytime predators while giving them more space to run in. The chicken yard or the chicken run, whatever you want to call it, is relatively, I guess it's safe to say it's relatively a more modern concept of the 20th century, because back in the day before wire fencing was readily available, a farm might have a chicken house, and in the morning, the chickens were let out to free range from the morning, from sun up to sundown, and usually the farmer or the farmer's wife was close by, and so if you heard any predators or anything getting your chickens, you were right there to be able to dispatch the predator or take care of the situation. But in our more modern time, when many farmers and folks work away from the farm during the day, with the advent of wire fencing, especially the mesh wire, the woven wire, the welded wire, when that came along and was readily available, it made sense that you could make a larger area that would provide that daytime protection from stray dogs or other predators that would get your chickens while you're away from the farm. So that's why I say the chicken yard or the run is a relatively modern innovation to the farm life. And yes, Patrick, it would be quite nice to have your whole chicken yard with a roofed structure on top of it and the sides open with a wire, letting sun, letting fresh air in, giving them a place to be, in the shade, especially in summertime. That'd be a great idea. But at that point, we're not talking about a modest chicken house with a yard attached anymore. We're talking about a rather large structure. It'd be really nice, but we're talking basically about a chicken barn. And therein lies the advantage of the chicken yard, is that you don't have to build this massive structure. You could just build your simple chicken house that protects them at night, and then they have access to the run, which is far less expensive to build, especially considering metal roofing these days, tin, which is so much more expensive than it used to be just a few years ago, not to mention the materials that it takes to build the rafters and so forth. So that would be roughly the advantage to just a run without a roof over it. As far as the saving the manure goes, yes, it is true that if manure is left to weather to the elements without protection or cover over it, a lot of the what's good about the manure is going to leach out with every rain, and you're going to lose a lot of the value of that manure. But really, if you're talking about a modest chicken yard, you're really not going to find enough, in my opinion, you're not going to find enough manure in a chicken yard to make it worth your effort. Now, in a commercial chicken house where they're running on the ground 24 hours, and after those chickens are out of there and you stir that up and you scrape that up and you haul it off and it can be put on pastures, that's the best way to collect large amounts of manure. But we're talking about, thousands of chickens in an area on the ground 24 hours. On the small farm, on the homestead situation, basically the best place to catch that manure is under their roost where they sleep at night, because that's where it piles up. I think mine is at the moment that tall. It really needs cleaning out. Maybe somebody will get to that one of these days. But so on the small farm, it's more practical to collect your manure under that roost, which is why I build the roost up tall, so you can kind of get under there and get that out and get it on your pasture or wherever you want to spread that manure. Now, I want to move on to the next questions Patrick has. He says, alternatively, I'm wondering how many square feet per bird I'd need in a permanent run for grass to survive in most of the area. I'm pretty sure, at least in my case, that would very probably make the overhead protection from hawks completely impractical, but that if I see hawks or if my count goes down, that I could temporarily shut off that larger area until the hawks move on. Well, Patrick, it would not take many birds at all, very long, to turn any amount of grassy area into bare dirt. It's sad, but true. But no worries, there are other ways. There are better ways, better ideas out there. For one thing, you can do what I do, and that's keep the chickens, as I said, in the chicken house at night, give them access to the chicken run, or the chicken yard as I call it, through the daytime, which protects them from daytime predators. And then just after 12 o'clock noon, you can open the door and let those chickens out into the larger world, to free range, to forage, to find a lot of their food source by doing that. But the reason I wait until after 12 o'clock noon, my theory being that hawks in the area they're gonna wake up hungry. I'm assuming I do. And they're going to find whatever they want to eat in those morning hours and feed their babies or whatever. And they're going to be maybe a little less inclined to go killing your chicken in the afternoon than they would in the morning. So that's why I wait, because they've already had a meal that morning. I think it helps. Although I have seen a hawk swoop down in the afternoon and grab, a wild rabbit or a snake or whatever. So it's not completely foolproof, but I do believe it helps quite a bit to wait until after 12 o'clock noon to let your chickens free range. It cuts down on their being predatorized. But if you're like a lot of other people who have full-time or part-time jobs away from the farm, maybe you're not there during the day to let your chickens out at 12 o'clock noon. In that case, I've got maybe another idea that might work for you. Now, granted, I have not tried this myself, but I see no reason why it wouldn't work. What you can do is take and build you a framework of boards that sit directly on the ground inside the chicken yard, and maybe 2x6 boards, 2x8 boards, 2x4 might be a little too short, and stand them up on their ends and build that framework and cover the top of that framework with 2x4 welded wire. And this will allow the grass to grow up through the wire so the chickens can stand on top of the framework and harvest that grass themselves. But they can't get down low enough to scratch and kill the grass or scratch up the roots and end up killing the grass, and the grass will end up surviving. I don't know that I would want to do the whole chicken yard that way. I mean, that's a lot of wire and a lot of boards. Maybe you just want to do sections that would provide them a consistent amount of grass throughout the day. Feel free to try that and let me know if it works, because again, I've never tried it. It just sounds like a good idea. And if it doesn't work, please let us know, and then you can take your framework and turn it into a drying rack for apples or peaches, once you scrape all the chicken manure off of it. If you enjoyed this particular topic, maybe you'd like to see some of my other videos having to do with chickens, chicken fencing, protecting chickens. I've got, of course, the video I mentioned earlier, chicken yard fencing and protecting chickens. There's an entire playlist series on building an old-fashioned log chicken house that I think you'll really enjoy, as well as another Q&A show I did called How Do You Protect Chickens from Predators? You might find that very interesting. Just look in the description below for the links to those videos. And if you have any other chicken-related question, please feel free to add it in the comment section below. I love reading the comments. I love reading the questions. I try to respond to as many comments as I can. You're all so very nice. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for your kind words. And until next time, I'm Paul Mack, and I'll talk at you later. Dad, awesome. The biggest problem with gates isn't that they sag over time. The biggest problem with gates is folks leaving them open. Well, now that you mention it, and upon honest reflection, I completely stand corrected.